What's up you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Leizel. So for today's video, I'm coming to you guys with a makeup tutorial specifically on how to achieve a flawless looking base using only drugstore makeup products. As you may have heard me mention in previous videos, I want to put more of an emphasis onto the fact that you don't need to spend extra money on high-end makeup products to achieve that of which you could do with drugstore. So if that's the kind of thing that you guys are interested in, keep on watching. If you do enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like it before you leave it, and if you're new, you know what to do. Join the crew by hitting the little red subscribe button down below. So with that being said, let's get into it. Alright you guys, so as you can see, I'm starting things off today with freshly cleansed and moisturized skin. And that's something that I want to put a note to, is that having a flawless base definitely starts with your skincare routine. And I'm not saying that step one is have perfect skin already, because even if you do have the perfect skincare routine down pat, that doesn't mean that you're not going to wake up with the odd pimple here and there. I mean, I woke up with these guys here today. Time of the month problems. But when I talk about things starting off with your skincare routine, I'm specifically referring to finding the right serums and moisturizers that are specified for your skin type. Now, if you guys didn't already know, I do have a naturally oily skin type, which means that I, of course, suffer from oily skin. And when my skin does get super oily, specifically around that time of the month, I do notice that the pores in this T-zone area tend to get a little more larger and textured. So that is why I felt like today would be the perfect day to demonstrate to you guys how I cover all this. And that's not to say that there's anything wrong with having flawed skin, because let me tell you guys, you need to be able to be confident with your imperfect skin as well as with your perfect skin. But I totally get it. I've been there before when I had acne, when I was super unconfident with even going out without having some type of base on my skin. So that's not to say that this is something that you have to do, but I feel like if this is something that is going to help you have a little more confidence, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So yeah, now that I have explained all of that, as I said, I'm starting off today with freshly cleansed and moisturized skin, meaning that I've already gone in, washed my face, applied my serums and moisturizers, and now we are going to get started with actually applying the makeup. So first things first, I'm going to go in with primer. Now I like to use this one, and this was actually a recent discovery for me, but I really like it for the fact that it is a spray form primer. So this is of course the NYX Bear With Me Prime, Set and Refresh Multitasking Spray. The reason why I like this is of course because it is a primer in spray form, which does mean that it does not require you to rub and blend it into the skin, which is what I like, because I feel like sometimes as I'm applying primers that you have to rub into the skin, it kind of irritates the skin even more. So yeah, that's why I like this one so much, and as I said, it was a recent discovery for me and I have been using it ever since. I'm just going to go ahead and speed up the process of it settling into my skin by fanning it. Typically I will like cleanse and moisturize my skin and then really take some time to let it settle into my skin before I go in with any of my base products, just because I feel like it's important to let your serums and moisturizers do their thing before you go in with a foundation straight away. And that really does help to create the barrier between your skin and your makeup products that you are applying to your face. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to go ahead and fan this into my skin so it kind of settles in quicker. So once my primer has settled into my skin, it is now time to go in with foundation. And today I'm going to be using this one from Loreal. This is their Infallible 24-hour Fresh Wear Foundation. I actually spoke about this in my recent top 5 drugstore foundation recommendations video, and I did say that if I were going to recommend any of those foundations for you guys, like the #1 foundation I think you should pick out of all of them, it would be this one. I just love how it's full coverage. I love how it's long wearing, but I also love how it doesn't make my face look completely matte in a sense. It's like a nice radiant finish, which even though I do have an oily skin type, I really do like that. So this is it right here. As you can see, it's dripping down my skin because it is a fairly like lightweight formula, but I'm just gonna go ahead and start dotting that on my face. I particularly like to concentrate more product towards the center of my face because that's where I feel like I need more coverage. And then when it comes to like the perimeters, I don't feel like I have too much going on in those areas where I would need to apply more product. So as you can see, I look crazy with all these dots around my face, but I do like to apply it in this way because I am going to be going in with a blending sponge. And what I actually like to do, even though I haven't wet this, I like to go in with some of the priming spray. Some people don't like to do this, but I just feel like adding that little bit extra to your sponge really does help to set the foundation as you're applying it. And then from here, I'm just gonna go ahead and start dabbing that all over my face to blend the foundation into my skin. Another thing that I love about this foundation is that it really doesn't take much to blend it into the skin, and I really feel like using a sponge in conjunction with this foundation really does help to give it that more natural finish as opposed to packing it in with a brush. Like, don't get me wrong, I do like to use like some type of dense kabuki brush to blend in my foundations sometimes, but I feel like using a blending sponge really does help to give you more of a natural lightweight finish while still giving you the coverage that you need. So that is pretty much one layer of foundation on my skin. At this point I could go in with a second layer, however I don't feel like my entire face needs extra coverage. I want to just go in and kind of spot conceal any little breakouts or imperfections that I feel like I want to cover up. So what I'll do is I'll just take a little bit of extra foundation and kind of dot it onto the areas where I feel like I need a little bit of extra help. So I'll just let that sit on there for a little bit, and then I'll go back in with the blending sponge and just lightly tap over those areas. And then that way I can go ahead and give myself extra coverage without having to go overboard and applying it all over my face and potentially like caking it up. So that's how everything goes as far as foundation is concerned. Next up, I'm going to be going in with concealer, and for that I'll be using the L'Oreal Infallible More Than Concealer. This was actually a recent discovery for me. If you guys watched my Drugstore full face of first impressions, I actually used that for the first time in that video and I haven't stopped using it since. I truly believe that this is the Drugstore version of Tarte's Shape Tape Concealer. I mean, it's pretty dupe worthy in terms of packaging, formula, everything about it just reminds me of Tarte's Shape Tape, but I'm going to go ahead and use this to highlight and conceal my face, and I feel like this step really helps to change up the face, add some more definition and light to it while also bringing you more coverage. And I just feel like doing this step really adds something extra to your face. So as you can see, I've gone ahead and applied that in all the areas that I want to conceal, highlight and brighten. Also, just as a note, you guys can tell that I do like to go for shades that are lighter than my foundation because I do like to use my concealer to not only conceal but also brighten up my face. So for concealer, the way that I like to blend it in is with this type of airbrush, like buffing concealer brush. I just feel like using this to blend the concealer into the skin gives it a more concentrated effect, which for me, since I do suffer from more imperfections in the areas that I'm concealing, such as my T-zone and underneath my eyes, because I do have darkness going on there since I don't get enough sleep during the night, being able to control the opacity of the concealer by using a different tool to apply it really does help. So I'm just going ahead and kind of stippling and buffing that into the skin. I do also like to bring some onto my lids because I do have fairly dark lids as well, and I just feel like bringing it onto the lids really helps to blend everything together and make it go together cohesively. And as you guys can tell on this side of my face that I've already blended, it really does give that like lifted effect and makes you look less like tired, which I need all the help I can get because I do have darkness underneath my eyes. So again, I'm just going ahead and buffing and stippling that into the skin and pulling it up towards the hairline. And as I mentioned, doing so really does help to bring that lifted look to the face. Alright, so that is the concealer on. I know it might look a little bit crazy because I've just got this intense stripe of like brightness in this area, so I do like to go back in with my sponge and kind of just work towards the edge of the two, like where the concealer meets the foundation, and just go ahead and like blend at that edge so it's not so like noticeable. There's no like intense stripe between the two, like where they meet. So now that I have that concealer on, next step is to set it straight away, and this is really going to help with preventing any creasing from occurring throughout the day. And depending on what type of powder you use to set in place, that's really going to help to minimize and diminish the look of any texture that you may have going on. So in terms of powder, I like to use this one right here, and you guys have probably heard me talk about it a million times if you watch my channel regularly. This is the Australis Ready Set Go finishing powder in True Translucent. Now I know that this is something that is easily accessible here in Australia. You can pick it up from Priceline. However, for all of my fellow makeup lovers who live overseas, I'm not 100% sure where you can purchase this from other than the Australis website itself. But my recommendation is to go for a translucent powder like this one, where it is just really soft to touch, as you guys can see. Let me just dip my finger in there. Like, it's really soft to touch, and you'll be able to tell if you're able to swatch a powder how it feels, whether it's really soft to touch. That is one that is really going to help with diminishing the look of any pores, fine lines, or even pimples that you may want to set in place and cover up. So I'm just going to go ahead and tap my brush into there. A fair bit does come onto the brush, but that is perfectly fine because I'm going to go ahead and apply it straight away, starting off with the under eye area. And I really like to get right in here in this like inner section of underneath my eye, because I do find that's when my concealer tends to crease up on me first. I'll then go in and set the other areas. Now, if I didn't already mention it, this powder is precisely just to set my concealer in place. When it comes to setting concealer, if you want that soft look finish, really diffused airbrush type of look, again, I recommend getting a translucent powder such as this one. Even if you get yourself a loose translucent powder, just something that is really finely milled, that is what is going to give you that really soft airbrushed type of look to your skin. So that is the concealer set in place. As you can see, that powder really did give me a brightening effect, purely for the fact that it is like straight up white in color. Even though it is a translucent powder, it does have that tinge to it. However, if you are not into that, or if you are of a darker complexion than myself, I would recommend to go for some type of banana powder, because that is going to give you more of a natural brightening effect, whereas this might be a little bit too intense for some people. But again, I recommend for any type of setting of the under eye area, definitely go for a powder that is very finely milled, because that is going to help prevent any creasing from occurring throughout the day. As for the rest of my face, I'm just going to go ahead and set it in place with this powder. This is the Loreal True Match powder. Typically, I'm not that concerned when it comes to setting the rest of my face, because all these other areas of my face don't get as oily as the T-zone area, which is what I set in place with that translucent powder. But when I'm going for that extra full coverage look, I do like to go ahead and add powder to those areas to set it in place. I feel like it also helps when it comes to, again, blending that edge where the concealer meets the rest of your face, if that makes sense. So there's this like seamless transition between the two. So this is the point where I would go ahead and do the rest of my makeup, such as bronzer, blush, highlight, all that kind of thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and quickly do that, and then I'll check back in with you guys. So now that I finished applying the rest of my makeup, I could totally leave it like this. I mean, I like how it looks. It looks really nice and matte for sure, yet soft and diffused at the same time. But I'm gonna go ahead and spritz my face with some more of this multitasking spray. Not only is this going to help set my makeup in place for the day, but it's also going to help settle all those powders that I applied on the skin. So there we have you guys. That is everything that I do in order to achieve a flawless makeup base using all Drugstore makeup products. I want you to comment down below and let me know what you think. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like it before you leave it. And if you're still here at the end watching and you are not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing by clicking the little red button down below before you go, so you don't miss any more videos that I post. As always, I'm going to go ahead and leave a list of everything that I used in the video down in the description box below, alongside of all of my social media links if you guys want to keep up with me on any of those. And with that being said, I hope you guys are having an awesome day or night wherever you are. I hope you're staying safe, looking after yourselves, and looking out for each other. I will talk to you in the comments, and I'll see you all in my next video.
From the day I saw you, I really want to